Hi, my name is Kagarise, and I have autism, and I'm currently raising three kids with autism, my grandkids that I have custody of, and hopefully um, we are all living a successful life, even though we have autism. I used to go around and give a speech that was called Stuck on Success with Autism, and I have not been able to do that in quite a while. So I thought, since I haven't been able to do a lot of the things that I used to do since the pandemic started, and since I've been home with my kids, because one is immunodeficient and he's only 7 and he has not been able to go to school. Uh, and it's been quite the journey since the pandemic started. It's been a whirlwind in my house. I haven't been able to do half the things or even probably 80% of the things that we used to do. So life has really changed in our house, and having 4 kids in the house, or 3 kids and one adult with autism in a pandemic can be quite the challenge. As you know, even all of the normal structures that people have been removed, and uh, people with autism have quite a strict schedule that they go by. They're used to having everything in place, and if anything is different, it really affects them. So, this has been, like I said, really a challenge. One of the things that was taken from me was my job that I was doing. And since I have not been able to do that and go around and speak and be an advocate for people on the spectrum, I decided to have my own YouTube channel. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be very honest about this. I've never done this before. So, but I am definitely willing to try. I've been looking at all kinds of people that are successful. The way I look at it is if I even get one subscriber that I'm reaching, then I'm a success. I know people buy subscribers and people do all kinds of things, so they have a lot of numbers. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm completely fine with just even doing it for myself, for whoever ends up watching this. I used to write for Autism Speaks as a guest writer on a pretty regular basis, and I no longer do that. I would love to do that again. I have a lot in me that wants to be said about autism. There, every single time I sit down to write something, I come up with a lot of different things. I have no trouble sitting down and writing. So um, I hope that this ends up being a really successful channel, uh, whatever that means, whatever that success means. I do know that one of the speeches that I always gave was called Stuck on Success with Autism, because I really strongly believe that people with autism can be very successful. There is nothing that stands in our way. We can be or do whatever anybody else can do. We just do things a little differently. We have to learn things differently. We have to process differently, interact differently. We're so good at pretending to fit in that we normally figure it out. And I have a lot of executive functioning issues that some with autism have, and all three of my grandkids have the executive functioning piece where they have a difficult time actually doing the things that they're thinking. There's so many things that I would love to be able to do, but getting from A to B sometimes can be a challenge. I watch a lot of what people are doing around me in order for me to execute uh, what I would like to be able to do that others do so easily. But I get it done. And in the 56 years that I've been alive, I've never let my disability stand in the way, not ever. And I have quite a few disabilities that go along with my autism, and I had quite a rough beginning, but I've never uh, used any excuses. And I learned that even as a baby, and then kindergarten, when the adults around me realized that I was different and that I learned differently. And neurologists stated that I probably wouldn't even graduate high school. But I look at anything like that, any challenge, as just that. It's a challenge. It's not something where people can just say, no, this isn't going to happen. Um, Sorry. I say, oh, okay, really? Well, I'm going to figure out a different way. Um, when I wasn't able to read when I was younger, I didn't really learn how to read until several years after my peers. And it was because all of the words kind of blended together. The letters were all over the place. There were no breaks in between the words. And that was part of one of the other things that is that goes on with my brain. And that's that my eyes do not converge. Where most people see one, my eyes see two. And so I had to get used to, my brain actually was very kind in splitting or allowing my brain to be able to see one like most people do. And that's because my left eye, the most of the time, does not work. It works, like I can see, but the only time that it actually sort of kicks in is when I'm tired and I can start seeing that I'm starting to see two of things. So it's interesting how the brain works. But still, even with that, I wasn't able to comprehend or retain the things that I was reading. So it took years and years for me to be able to get to the point where I could. And still, I have to read things several times for me to understand. But I learned really young how to figure out how for me to do as well as I could in school, which was a C in most of my classes. A lot of people, they would get A's for the amount of work or A pluses for the amount of work that I would put in. I never allowed the hard work to um, to scare me away. I would read into a tape recorder because back then that's what we had was tape recorders. I would read into a tape recorder and then I would listen back to what I would listen back to what I said, and then I would write small sentences, very small, or word to to kind of summarize everything that I had just heard. And then I would study that. And that was by reading, listening, writing, using all of my brain. I was able to start to know, I was start to able to learn. And then I did that all the way through my master's. And it would take me hours and hours for me to be able to learn the things that my peers would learn in like an hour. It would take me hours. And I'm talking 4 or 5 hours to learn what somebody would probably learn in an hour. But it was just something that I was dedicated to doing. And it never, ever scared me away or, hard work has just been something that I've always accepted. And I think people with autism just have to know from the get go that our life is going to be harder, and that in order for us to be able to make it, that we do have to just put in that extra effort and not let it get to us. If other people are really able to just, do fantastic and learn really fast, we just have to know, okay, well, I'm just going to do it a different way. I always, that phrase where we're just differently abled, and that's the way I would look at it, is we're just differently abled. And I think that we can do it. We can do whatever we set our mind to. So I hope that I can do this YouTube channel and I can introduce myself to you and the techniques that I've learned in order to be the best that I can be and do things that adults all my growing up told me that I wouldn't be able to do. People really thought that I would not be able to live on my own. But not only that, I bought a house and I have um, made an income and I've raised my 2 adult kids and I'm now raising my 3 grandkids all with challenges, all with significant challenges. And I think I'm kicking butt. I'm doing a pretty good job at it. So I'm hoping that I can pass these on. And I was actually named one of the most inspiring people with autism, not, a couple years back. And I was writing quite a bit for Autism Speaks and I was really out there. Um, and I hope that I can do that again once this pandemic is over. And if anything, it can be just on YouTube and just help at least one person. So that's it for now. And I hope that I can do this on a regular basis.